Fabric Addicts. I'm Andrea with My Fabric Addiction, and today we are going to talk about our newest quilt kit. It is How They Shine. The pattern is by Melissa Corry. The fabric that we used is Freedom Garden by Riley Blake. It is a 2-block quilt. It has an A and a B. We have them packaged in an A block and a B block to keep things simple and easy for you. You can just take it out and sew it. Let's get started. All right, so we have 3 different sizes of squares. For this, we have a large, a medium, and a small. The small comes in a background and a print, and then we also have a rectangle. So our first step is we are going to make some half square triangles. I've already made part of the block ahead, so I'm only going to be doing one on camera. So we are going to be taking our large print with our large background, and we are going to draw a line from corner to corner. Just like this. And we are going to sew on both sides of this drawn line to make 2 half square triangles. We will go to the sewing. Okay, we're going to sew on either side of this drawn line. Try and keep that centered on there. All right. We're just going to flip it around and go down the other side. We are going to cut down the center and press them. We're going to trim right on our drawn line. And then press them. We're going to set our seam, roll them back. Now we are going to trim them up. We're going to take our 45-degree line and we will line it up with our center seam. There will be hardly anything you trim off. This thing is pretty close to the size that you need it. Keep it in camera. The pattern will tell you the size. And you will do that to all of your half square triangles. I'm only going to do 2 because I've done the rest beforehand. That first one doesn't get hardly anything off, just a tiny bit. You just want to make sure that on your 45-degree, you just want to make sure it's right on the corners. On your seam, your center seam, to get the correct size. Just like that. Okay. And next, we are going to do, draw our lines on our small backgrounds. There will be 2 of them, just like that. And we are going to put it on the corners, and we will do a stitch and flip. I'm going to pin these. on this one, we're gonna sew right on the drawn line. We are going to trim this away. I always check to make sure I've gone the right direction, and I have. So now we will trim 1/4 inch away from the sewn line. And then we will roll this back. Okay. Now we will take our other side and do the exact same thing. We'll sew right on the drawn line. Okay, we'll sew that up. We will sew, or we'll cut 1/4 inch away from our sewn line. And we will roll that back. Okay. And we will, I believe, make 4 of those. Okay. Now we have our half square triangles made and our star point units made. We can start making our block. We'll take our medium size background, we'll put it in the center. And we take our half square triangles, just like that. Like that. Now we will sew our rows together. We'll just sew these all together, and then when I do my pressing, I will make sure that all the seams on this one are going to the right, the middle seams going to the left, and these ones to the right. All right. As I was moving things over to my machine, I realized that I had my half square triangles turned the wrong direction. I had them this way, and that is for the B block. For our A block, we want them that direction. So we'll do the same. Just start sewing them together. So I want to make sure that there's this little V right here where my stitches come together. I want to make sure that I sew right underneath this V so that you keep your point. Now we are going to take them. Pattern says to press them open. I didn't when I made the sample. I just went one direction. You could go out on these ones, on the outside pieces, and you could go in on this one, which I might do that. I think that might work out the best way for me. I don't want to do them all open. So we'll get pressing. Okay. So pattern says to press them open. I'm going to just press them, these top two, top and the bottom. I'm going to go with the seams going out. Like that. Just like that. And then these ones going in. Like that. Now we are going to sew our row together, and then we will have our center part of our star block finished. Don't come at me for sewing over my pins. Okay, that looks nice. And that side. Now we'll give it a good press. Sometimes I come at it from the back just to make sure all my seams are laying the way they're supposed to. But lay nice and flat. Okay, so on this next part, we are going to be putting on, they're kind of like sashing pieces. It's another section that goes across on all sides, and we'll have some cornerstones. It is a little bit tricky of getting things lined up, but I will show you the tricks that I did to make it line up a little bit better. All right, so we will take our rectangle pieces and our print small squares, and you are going to take, you'll have 4 of these for the 2 that I'm working on. So you're going to draw a line from corner to corner on all of these. If you're doing all of them, you do more. So you just draw your line. Where's my pencil? You do it to all of them. Now, this is a little bit tricky on this one because they go opposites from each of these. So on one side, we're gonna go with there. I'm gonna look at my pattern just to double make sure that I'm going the right direction. Okay, so this one, you actually go that way. And on, no, I was right. So you go that way. Yep, just opposites. So we are going to pin those. And then you're going to sew down the line that we just drew. You'll do it on that one, and then the other side will be going this way. They go this way. And we will sew on that line. So, same direction. Just opposite of each other, just like that. Slow down this other one while we're at it. Before I cut anything, I always check. So when they come together, let's see, we'll trim. It'll look just like that. And we want the middles to meet to make a little triangle, and these outer pieces to be facing out. So we did sew them correctly, so we can trim. Quarter inch away from the sewn line. Do not trim on the sew line. Now we will iron those. Now we want to have one of them you roll back. And this other side we're going to have go the opposite direction so that they will nest when you put them together. Okay, so the way that we want this to go together is we want these two pieces to make a triangle and have these two pieces facing outward. And the way that we press these should nest really nicely. Just like that. You can push them right up against each other. And you're gonna sew 1/4 inch seam right there. And then we will press open. It will all be ready to be put on. Just like that. Press these open. Just like that. Now we're gonna put these just like this. Just like that. And then we have our cornerstones in the middle, or on the corners. Okay, now we are gonna sew this row, this row, this row. Now, this part was really tricky on getting these to line up. So what I did is I made sure that right here at the end where your seam ends, it lines up with your end of your seam allowance right there. And I pinned them really well. And then even at that, they didn't always line up perfectly, and I had to take a little bit deeper seam right here to get those to line up perfectly. So we will do the best we can, but it's okay if you need to go back over and take a little bit deeper seam. That's okay to make those line up. So we'll just pin those. Like I said, this right here at the end lines up exactly with the end of your seam allowance right there. Do that on both sides. This might be a little bit gapey, but if you have it on the bottom of your against the feed dogs, it will help to ease that in. This is not a beginner block. Can be a little tricky and frustrating when your seams don't line up. So do the same here. This can be a little bit gapey, but we're just gonna make it work. Okay, so that goes over this one. This you just like that on both sides, super easy. So we will get to that point when we are getting ready to sew these on. We'll go a little bit closer for you to see that a little better. Okay, so we'll sew our cornerstones on the top strips. I'm gonna change my foot out again. It's actually probably the better foot for when you need to take a deeper bite, but I have a hard time keeping my 1/4 inch with that. I sew too quickly. I just need something to push up against. Okay. Just get used to a certain way. All right. I caught on to that back of that seam. All right. I'm just gonna grab this and put this on the other side so it doesn't fall off my table. I'll just stick it on, it's long enough. I'll do that on this one also. I'll sometimes start and then just grab this back end and line it up and stick a pin. that end. And then same thing. Just make sure you're going right sides together. Okay, so we have both those done. And I'm just gonna do a little finger press. And I'm gonna just make them go out both sides. Okay, and it would go like that. We'll give it a good press at the very end. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick them both right here for a minute while we work on these parts. So we'll start. If you needed to, you could just do a long basting stitch and sew all the way down, and then if it's where you want it, then you could sew back down it, and then everything's where it needs to be and you don't have to worry about things shifting. I did that at the very start and I got to where I could kind of figure out where it needed to be. And I did sew over my pins. I usually try and go a little bit slower, and I use really thin pins and it just glides over. I've never had a needle break. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just don't want these to move. All right, let's see how we did. Okay, so this one looks really nice and it lines up perfectly. This one is a little bit off. It looks like it needs a little bit of a bigger bite, because if you push it down on this side just a little bit more, you can see it meets up. So I'm just gonna go over just this seam just a tiny bit more on that one side. And that was the only way I was able to get them all lined up pretty closely. I just take a couple of stitches to anchor it down, and then I just push just a little bit further, and then I do another little back stitch right there. Okay, and that made it perfect. So I'm gonna do that on the other side. Same thing. We're gonna line up the end of that stitching to the very end of that seam allowance. Okay. Same on this side. Just like that. And then we can start with that one. before. All right. So, same thing. I need to go just a tiny bit deeper. Now, if you weren't worried about it, you could just not worry about it. If you iron it that way, they kind of match up a little bit better. But I usually try and fix it. So I will take a tiny bit deeper bite. Keep getting stuck. Okay, so that one went the other direction. I'm wondering if it shifted when I was pinning. But, so I would just unstitch that just a little bit and shift it over. It's always one way or the other. I will fix that and we'll get this other side on and we will meet you up to iron these all up. Probably should have pressed everything as I was doing it. This one looks like it's a little bit off. Looks like it needed to be moved down just a tiny bit more. So I will end up fixing that. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So that's why it looks kind of funky and not laying as flat. That is our block. Everything else seems to be doing pretty good. This is our, so we have an A block and a B block. A blocks have your white in your centers and the B blocks have your prints in the centers. And once you get them all made, you just put them in rows and quilt it and bind as you like. Thank you for joining us.